So hello and welcome, I'm Frederick Dunn and this is The Way to Be. Today I'm looking at a camera, an action camera, specifically the GoPro Hero Black 13. Or is it the Hero 13 Black Edition? That's what it is, but here's what makes it special. Macro lens mod, variable close focus wide angle lens. So finally GoPro has made a macro lens just for their cameras, but in this case for one specific camera, the Hero 13 Black. It doesn't fit on any of your others. The 11, the 12, the 10, the 9, the 8, the 7. Forget about it. Now, this camera has a lot of different resolutions. Obviously, really good. 5.3K down to 2.7K. My most frequently used resolution is 1080p. Sorry, but that's what I do. The lens mod costs you $129.99 if you're not a member. The Volta, which is a handheld power unit, which is compatible with it, you can control everything, is $229. You don't have to use it. In fact, for this demonstration today, I'm going to use the GoDox, just an auxiliary power unit, which you're going to need because this thing is power hungry. But the point of it is, you can take a camera with a macro lens, finally made by GoPro, because prior to this, we always had to buy those aftermarket lenses that didn't work so great. And I'm also going to introduce you to what I use for my micro SD card. 256 gigabytes. You're not going to use that up, and that's plenty for you to capture all you need to, because your GoPro battery is going to die before this card is full. #1 selling memory card brand. So I use these in all my cameras too, all the big ones. Micro SD, CF cards, you name it, I use them. They're fantastic. There was a photographer whose camera was eaten by an alligator. They got the camera out later, and guess what? The card was still good. The camera was shot. These things are durable. So, highly recommend that. By the way, this video is not a promotion. I was not given anything. I bought everything full price. So, don't have to worry about it. This camera has a new battery design too, by the way, which I won't go into, but just sitting there, the battery was draining down. I found that interesting. Maybe it's because it's connected to Wi-Fi, and it might be listening, so you can activate it. But I'm also going to show you really quickly here how to format your micro SD card. Always format that thing in camera. So we go down here to settings, preferences, go down to the bottom there. Oops, not date. And then you're going to go down and you're going to see where it says reset. That doesn't make sense, does it? But that's where you go. Format, and then hit format. It's going to format the card for you. So that's pretty good, and then you're ready to go. Big card like that takes a while. I did cut that short. And then we're going to go back here to the preferences. I'm going to do some things. All I want you to do is get this camera out, put it together, and use it. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining a lot of details. Also, now we're talking about the macro lens. Front and rear protective caps. So that's when it's in storage, of course. And it better be good, because the macro lens itself costs $129.99, which is not bad. If you compare real macro lenses, real DSLRs and mirrorless cameras, you're saving a lot of money by putting this unit together. So for beekeepers, I'm thinking this could be pretty darn good. It comes with a user's guide. Very basic. Let's talk about putting it together. I want to get you out there with your camera as soon as possible. So you turn the lens cover that's on it already counterclockwise 45 degrees. It's going to be a lot of resistance there because it's weather sealed. There's a really firm weather strip, and that's because this camera goes out in all weather. So turn it 45 degrees counterclockwise, pull it off, and then we open the super interesting macro lens made by GoPro. And they include this little cloth here too. 4 inches by 4 inches, something like that. It's tiny. Look at the weather seal there, but more importantly, look at that little blue circle, because you're going to match it up with the blue circle that's on the camera itself. And that weather seal means we can take this thing underwater also, or just out in all weather. Now they tell you in the instructions to leave that rubber cover on while you're handling the lens, to put it on the camera so that you don't put your big nubby fingers all over the front element and get it smudged up. But you could have cleaned it with that cloth anyway. So anyway, here also I want you to notice something. If you want to do voice control, click on that little square right there and make sure that voice control is on first, because in the tutorial they offered, they didn't even mention that. Then you go down here into your preferences, the English language for me personally. Then these are all the commands. By the way, you have to say these commands exactly as they appear if you want to use voice control. If you're a beekeeper and you're wearing bee gloves and everything else, you're going to want to be able to turn this thing on, choose the mode you want it to operate in.
Start capture. GoPro capture.
So to
GoPro stop capture.
So it took still photos there. That's why it says 0 minutes and 0 seconds.
GoPro video mode. GoPro video mode. Start capture. GoPro start capture. GoPro capture.
So you have to say things exactly as they want you to, and pretty quick too.
GoPro stop capture. GoPro turn off. GoPro turn off.
It's a little buggy.
So now voice is activated. Let's test it out. GoPro video mode. GoPro capture. GoPro capture.
See, if you pause between the statements, it doesn't run. You have to keep your words coming fast.
GoPro stop capture. And when you're all done with everything, just say, GoPro turn off. Now we're ready.
So there you go. You have to make sure that all that's on, because think about your bee yard or the chores you're going to be doing. You want this thing to respond to your voice. So learn to talk to it and talk to it a lot. So we're going to pull that cover off. And we're going to put the new lens on. Easy peasy. And don't put your fingers all over it, of course. Keep everything clean. Do this in a clean space, by the way. This is on the kitchen table, of course. And it wouldn't hurt you to dust things down before you do it. Maybe have one of those air blasters handy or something to blow it off. And here we go, circle to circle. Line those up, and then we're going to put this lens on. Now here's the thing. They tell you to leave that rubber cover on so you don't mess up the lens with your fingers. I say take it off. Much easier to align it with it on there. Then make sure it's sealed in the proper setting there, and you're good to go. And also take the lens cover that's on there and put it in that little holder container that comes with the macro lens. That way you'll know where it's at. And then they have a little instruction that pops up. Why? Because the camera knows you just changed lenses, because there's a sensor built in. And then you store it, and you're good to go. And look, it says macro on there. So we can do macro photos and video. When it comes to photos, not that awesome. I'm going to show you samples. The resolution is 4K at 60 frames per second. Linear. I don't like the wide. The wide is too much. There's too much visual information there. Now, if you go to 240 frames per second, it drops to 2.7K. If you go to 60, it jumps up to 4K. It won't let you go to 2.7 at 60. I don't know why. But when you pick these resolutions, I'm sure there's some workaround there, but this is a 16:9 format. So anyway, what you're looking at here is the Hero 13 with the macro lens on. This is a sample video. That looks pretty passable to me. So of course I'm talking to it. Hero 13 with macro lens. That's the JPEG shot. So you want to be at exactly 4.3 inches.
GoPro, take a photo. GoPro video mode. GoPro video mode. GoPro capture. GoPro stop capture. GoPro, turn off.
Now the other thing is you want to make sure and turn those beeps on nice and loud, because you want to know for sure what your camera's doing and when it's doing it. And
GoPro, stop capture.
It can be a little buggy. So I actually don't like the voice actuated part, but I realize sometimes your hands are full. We have gloves on, whatever, you might need to do it. The good news is this pass-through side door that's made by GoPro was only good for the 12, the 9, the 11, and the 10, but it also fits this one, the 13. So that was good news because I want to run this Godox auxiliary power handle. Don't forget there's the Volt, that's an option also, but I chose not to use it for this one. I just got the cheaper Godox. Now we're outside. Everything you're seeing, audio and video and stills, are from this new macro lens on the GoPro Hero 13. I don't think the Hero 13 is that remarkable, to be honest. If you already have the 12 or the 11, for example, I think you're still good to go. Voice actuated, you end up talking to yourself a lot. Here's the thing. 4.3 inches. Don't get inside that range, because if you do, it is out of focus fast. So you could zoom in. I'm going to give you an example of that in this too, because we're going to see how the details hold up if we digitally zoom. So these are honeybees, of course, on Cosmos, and I did get a little too close. So 4.5 inches, look at that. It really includes a lot. This is a wide angle lens, and don't forget, this is in the linear mode. I didn't even try the wide angle setting because I don't want it. Too much information, too wide. A little distortion out there at the edges too. But is this a good camera overall? I think it is. I think the GoPro Hero systems have worked out really well through the years. And don't forget, you can do things with this that you can't do or wouldn't do with your big expensive rigs. And that is, for example, if this was big and stormy outside, you could go out there and get it. You can also do all the time-lapse sequences. You can do hyper. You can do all kinds of things with this that you wouldn't do with more expensive, larger cameras. So if you're a beekeeper and you want to use a video log, for example, you could strap this on a harness on your chest, talk to it, hear the camera beep and respond to you, and that will let you know when it's on, when it's recording, and then you can record your brood frames and everything else you want to finally nice and close. And of course that macro is manual as far as going from the 4.3 inches out to 2 feet. And when you set it to the 2-foot mode, that includes a lot of information. So you would definitely get the 4K there and then zoom in later if you wanted to. But at 4.3, a lot of stuff is in focus. You can see how far out things fall out and get a little soft there. So the other thing is too, notice I'm tracking a flying insect. When the insects move around, stays in focus. So maybe you could train yourself a little bit if you have a problem with that 4.3 inch limit. Maybe put a popsicle stick on it or something with that distance marked, and then you'll develop a skill set where you can actually keep it at that distance, because when you get too close, it's out of focus right away. So now we're going to find out, does this hold up if I zoom in? Because I'm zooming right now. You're getting closer to that honeybee there on that aster. And I have to say, I don't hate it. That is pretty darn clear. By the way, we have kind of challenging lighting today, so this is a great way to test this unit out as a camera, just to see what its dynamic range is. Now we're in the laying board of a honeybee hive. Listen to the noise. Also, the camera's too close. If you look at the beads along the bottom there, they are soft and out of focus, so there's a sweet spot. But we did learn in the previous sequence that if you wanted to, you could zoom in on the areas that are in focus in post-production. So, this isn't bad. This is a 4K video. I would say it's not too bad. The other thing that's interesting is the audio is handling this pretty well. I like the separation in the stereo. That's pretty darn good. That's what you're listening to here. And it also, when things get really loud, like when I was right in front of that entrance, it buffers that down for you. So wind buffering was pretty decent. You can see how we come into focus here. So when it's set for the close-up, and you have that little picture of the flower on it, you go from 4.3 inches to about 10 inches, and beyond that you're going to be out. So then you reach down and use the manual ring on that lens and you move it towards the little person there, and you get closer to the 2-foot section, and you're going to get a lot more in focus. But to me, that's less valuable, and here's why. The other cameras are ready without the macro lens focused in that range. So I did another video showing the focal distances of the previous GoPro Hero cameras, and I will link that down in the video description below, and I'll also tag it in the first comment there if you want to check that out. If you've got another camera. So there is some overlap here. You really don't need a macro lens if you're going to be videoing things 2 feet out, because the standard cameras already focus on that. So this is interesting though, not too bad. This is very close, by the way, 4.3 inches. And then of course you can get even closer. You can video this at 4K, which this is, and then zoom later in post-production. If you're doing a 1080p presentation, for example, you'll be able to zoom in on the details, like the bees that are fanning at that entrance right there, while the workers go through the opening with pollen on their hind legs. And you can see that there's some washboarding going on lower left there. Those are bees in a row and they're grooming it. Now, still image. How does that look? Looks okay. This isn't going to win any macro awards, but it's pretty darn good for a still photo if you needed to grab one. Plus, you can tell your camera to take that still photo with your voice. You don't have to reach down and get propolis and beeswax and honey and everything else all over your camera. Just tell it what to do, and it's going to do it. And here's the good news. Let's say you did get honey on it. It's a GoPro. Take it aside, wash it off in the kitchen sink, and you're good to go. You can't do that with your other cameras. So, maybe there's a big storm out there someday, and you want to run out there and get some super slow-mo, 240 frames per second bees flying in a storm. Grab your GoPro and go do it, and get close to them. I can see lots of opportunities here to be creative with this camera. And I'm going to leave it set up just like this. I'm not going to put that other lens cover back on. This is just going to be a dedicated Hero 13 black macro camera. This is Jewweed in the wetlands. And this is a Cosmo. Oh, I'm sorry, not a Cosmo. Those are Asters. And look at this caterpillar. You know what? I really like the idea that if you recall, using a standard Hero camera, everything's in focus. With a macro lens, look what's in focus. My subject matter, this caterpillar. Everything beyond it is soft and out of focus, which helps me selectively identify my subject. So let's get down here, Jewweed. There's a honeybee in there, getting that little light-colored stripe right on her thorax before she takes off. Jewweed is also known as touch-me-nots, because you get those little seed pods there that when you touch them or push them as they dry out, they pop open and the little seeds take off. Look at that right there. Should have gone to 240 for that frames per second, get a slow-mo sequence. But we just want the macro here. So, if you need a macro camera, this is pretty good. Look at this leaf. Now I'm holding the leaf right up against the lens itself, so you can see that the length of a leaf, this is a good size leaf by the way, you can see where it starts to come into focus. A little before 4.3 looks like to me, but then out at the far edges of the leaf it's nice and sharp. So you have some opportunity here to be creative with that shallow depth of field. And look beyond it. Let's go down here. The other thing is this is in-camera stabilization. I could have stabilized this in post-production, but I want to show you what the GoPro does on its own. So maybe my hands are shakier than I thought. I don't know. But you can go right down in the undergrowth here and look at moss on trees and things like that. So, dead trees, texture, so on. Look it over. But you can get too close easily. 4.3 inches. Got to keep telling myself that. Got to keep the camera away from things, because when I shoot macro with other systems, sometimes I'm just 2 inches away from the subject matter. But the wide angle, again, would include a lot more than this. This is the linear mode, right? So that's supposed to have less distortion. I don't want a bunch of distortion. So goldenrod here with the honeybee on it. And we can chase the honeybee around and not worry about the camera going out of focus. All you have to do is keep your hand in your camera within 4.3 inches to about 10 inches if you want to keep things in focus there. And if you went real slow-mo, I think you might get some interesting stuff of bees flying from flower to flower, or whatever your subject happens to be. Now this is bright sunlight. These are asters. This is a high contrast situation, so I have to say the dynamic range of the camera is pretty darn good too. I still see information on some of these very pale colored petals on these flowers, and we still have information in the dark shaded areas. So high contrast midday sun, this is pretty darn good, I would say. Now, of course, I'm guilty of getting too close to my subject over and over again. There's a lot of information in this sequence visually. If you consider that I'm only 4 inches away from the subject, then we back away, it goes wide fast. Another variety of aster here, and in full sun, again, just to see what the dynamic range is like, it handles things extremely well. So there you go. Let me know what you think about it. Is it worth it? Well, I think it is. If you're going to use it in your beehives and things like that, you don't want to spend the money for big, more expensive mirrorless or DSLR rigs and then buy the macro lenses. A macro lens by itself, depending on what company you get it from, will cost as much as everything in this video. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I want to thank you for watching.